We're gonna start in 2 minutes.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Due to COVID-19, Committee of Adjustment public hearings are being conducted virtually by electronic means through WebEx Webinar, an online digital platform and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. Participants who registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx Webinar, which is moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing can watch it on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting with their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All participants are automatically muted on entry. When your item is called, each participant is unmuted by city staff, one person at a time. We ask that you mute your devices until you are called on to speak. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelist when your item is being held. During this time, your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time. At all other times, your video will be disabled and you are reinstated as an attendee. Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Members of the public and applicants are not allowed to use share screen or any other panelist controls during your video appearance. City staff will remove you from the panelist role if you do not respect this instruction. For all those who are waiting online, please ensure that you have called in with the phone number that you originally registered with. If you call in with a different number, you will not be able to speak on the item. To ensure audio clarity, I suggest that you do not use the speaker functions on your telephones. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. My name is Alan Smithies and I will chair today's meeting. Joining us on the panel today are Ron Hunt, Asif Khan, Paul Kidd, and Nadini Sankar Peralta. City staff are also present: Simon Lamb, Sam Mozignani, Alex Chu, and Chris Pereira. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw that apply to property, permission to extend or alter lawful nonconforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. Anyone attending today who wants to receive a copy of the committee's decision must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address because Committee of Adjustment and the TLAB will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the committee's decision, it may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the committee's decision. The hearing procedure is as follows. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant will proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak on that item. The committee may ask questions and or take the matter into the committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, is given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching the 5-minute limit. When addressing the committee, please state clearly your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters described in the application. The applicant or agent proceeds first and will make their presentation to the committee. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. To ensure that a revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes, the committee may decide to defer the application if it has been substantially revised. Then, individuals either in support or opposed to the application are invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent has an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the previous speakers. This marks the end of discussion on the item. The application is then taken into committee for a decision. We have no minutes from our last meeting to confirm. I notice that I'll just ask the committee, does the committee have any conflicts of interest that they'd like to declare? There being none, thank you. We have some deferral requests for the morning, our morning session. I have one here for item number 7, 222 St. Germain Avenue. The agent is Ali Shakiri. Are you there, sir? Mr. Shakiri, are you there?
Ali, you're unmuted.
Yes.
Good morning. Yes. I'm unmuted, sir. Thank you. Yes, Ali Shakiri, 326 Shepherd Avenue East.
Great.
Good morning.
Thank you, sir. Just wanted to ask, could you give us the, before you start, I noted that the only staff condition we have attached to your file relates to urban forestry. If you could let the committee know the reason that you're requesting a deferral.
Sir, the sign is not posted on time. As such, we had to defer it so that it gets circulated again and we post the sign in a timely fashion. Basically, that's why we wish to defer it.
Okay, thank you. I notice we have one other person registered to speak on this application, Mr. William McCorriston. Are you there, sir?
Can you hear me?
Yes, hello, sir. Can I get your full name and address?
William McCorriston. I live at 215 St. Germain, and I also own that property.
Okay.
I also own 216 St. Germain,
Okay, thank
one
you, sir.
over from this construction project.
Okay, thank you, sir. Do you have any objections to the applicant's request for a deferral?
Only on the basis that I be provided with a date on which the matter will be heard and that I'm provided with an opportunity to speak at that time.
You will be, sir. You'll be re-notified.
I have no objection.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? Mr. Kidd?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For Mr. Shakiri, I noticed that variance number 2, the main wall height is the permitted wall height is 9.05, and you're proposing a wall height of 9.05. I want to draw your attention to that. So it seems to be a problem with that one. If you want, you should take a look at that before you come back to committee.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kidd. I'll just,
Yes, thanks for mentioning it. It came to our attention as well. The waiver, I checked the waiver we submitted is correct. Perhaps when it recirculated, I would remind the staff to correct that as well. Thank you very much.
okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kidd. Can I get a motion on the applicant's deferral request? Ms. Sankar?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I'll motion to defer this application sine die and giving the applicant a chance to post the notice for everyone to see.
Thank you very much. Someone to second that motion? Mr. Kidd seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Mr. Shakiri, your application has been deferred to the next available meeting, so you can repost the notice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll now proceed to our regular agenda. We are on item number 1, 939 Eglinton Avenue East. I have one person registered to speak. That is Matthew Schuman. Are you there, sir?
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Matthew Schuman.
Mr. Schuman, we can't hear you.
Good morning. Can you hear me now?
No, it's very hard to hear you, sir.
Good morning,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now, sir.
Thank you. I also have video available if that's easier for everybody.
Can I get your full name and address, please?
Yes, my name is Matthew Schuman.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Schuman, can I get your full name
Yes.
and address, please?
Yeah, sorry, sir. I was muted when they started my video. My name is Matthew Schuman. I'm a lawyer at McCarthy Tetro, solicitors for the owner and applicant in this file. Our office address is 66 Wellington Street West, Suite 5300.
Okay, thank you, sir. I just noted, going through your file, there's a couple of staff reports. There's one from Transportation Services dated the 7th of July that had no objection to your parking variance. There's also a planning report dated the 7th of July of this year that has no objection to your application, subject to conditions. I just wanted to ask, sir, if you've had the opportunity to review those reports.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have, and no concerns generally. I did want to speak to a couple of the conditions in the planning report, just to ask for the committee's indulgence for a little bit more specificity on those.
Okay,
the first condition.
Okay, sir, if you'd like to, in view of the fact that the committee's had no exposure to this application before this, so I would suggest that you give us a presentation on what you see as the merits of your proposal.
Sure, and we did submit a slide deck. If staff could take you to that, it looks like they've got the full set of architectural plans up.
You can begin your presentation and we'll pull up the material on the screen.
Okay. So we are requesting 7 variances this morning. This is a master plan community. It's a multi-tower site, and this is the third building to come forward in a long-standing redevelopment application that was approved in 2017 and is subject to site-specific zoning. So this is a mixed-use designated site with 3 towers. All the buildings are connected below grade by a shared garage. And the variances were triggered through the site plan application for this third tower, referred to as Building C in the bylaw and in the drawings. I can walk you through those. The other 2 buildings are actually under construction. So the first variance is for an increase to GFA. The GFA is capped for the site overall and not for individual buildings. So as the first 2 buildings were designed, there were technical changes, increases to amenity space, a larger number of units, but fewer units, some additional retail at grade. So that actually made technical changes to the ways that GFA was calculated for those buildings. So they haven't actually got larger, but things like deductions for amenity space based on a per unit rate were decreased. So what happens is none of the buildings have actually changed size, but we are asking for a little bit more GFA to clean up those technical calculations. On the east side of this tower, Building C, there is an at-grade amenity terrace. This is surface paving, and if staff perhaps could go to the second page here. There is an at-grade amenity terrace that is going to be extended a bit from 2 meters to 4 meters, so it encroaches into the setback. The other variances are related to the tower itself. So the first one I would draw your attention to is on the right-hand side of page 3 here. The facade of this tower was stepped back, and so there was a 2.5 meter setback. The wall has been straightened out in this area that is circled, so we are requesting a 2 meter setback instead of a 2.5 meter setback. We are asking for a change to the number of, not to the change in the number of stories, but to the change in the definition of a story to accommodate mezzanine levels above the lobby to provide for some lofted units at the 25th and 26th story. A mezzanine is already provided for in the site-specific bylaw for a double-height lobby. And if we could go back 1 page on the slide deck. Forward 1 page. There are 2 variances related to balconies, and this is related to the stepping of the building. So on the tower itself, there are inset balconies. The bylaw had them restricted within 3 meters of the corner of the building. And the architect and site plan has suggested that we extend them out to the corners. They are nevertheless inset, so they don't project out. It's shown on the right-hand side of this page number 4. And then the balcony projections at the top levels of the building on the 28th story. The request is to extend them from 1.8 meters to 2.5 meters. Again, the building steps back at the top, so they don't project out further than the levels below. And the last variance is the parking variance. Through the site plan process, there was a request to lower the overall parking rates based on the uptake of parking and precedent sites, similar sites in the area. As you know, this site is located near the forthcoming Laird LRT stop on the Eglinton Crosstown line. And so to encourage transit use and those TDM measures and reduce single car occupancy trips, we're suggesting to lower the parking rate from 680 over 680 spaces to 654 spaces and 2 car share spaces. And transportation staff, as the chair mentioned, has reviewed this report and supports the variance. And with respect to the conditions, the applicant is happy to enter into an agreement under Section 45(9), has been engaged in ongoing discussions with the Councillor's Office and City Planning staff. And as I mentioned, we're just asking with respect to some technical changes on the variances. So because there are ongoing discussions about a cash contribution for additional community benefits, we'd like to add some options to the allocation language.
Sir, can you summarize, please?
Additional flexibility. Yes. So on condition 1, we'd like to ask for opportunities for other community facilities or matters.
Okay, thank you,
in addition to
sir.
Parks and Recreation.
Okay, thank you. We'll go back to committee. Does the staff have any questions of the speaker? Mr. Khan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Schuman, my question is about the parking spaces. Sir, you are already short of 148 parking spaces, and you are adding ground floor area, which will further create parking less. Now, grade level will cause less parking. It is quite a concern to me. How do you justify and address this shortness of parking spaces?
So through you, Mr. Chair, the unit count is compliant. There are actually fewer and larger units being proposed than are permitted by the bylaw. The applicant's transportation engineer has reviewed this, and so have transportation services. So the gross floor area are not related to additional units. There's not going to be more people living here. And we are also next to the future LRT station. So the idea here is to have the parking rates reflect the leasing and purchasing data for the existing buildings that are under construction, and to encourage people to use transit and reduce single vehicle trips.
But Mr. Schuman, you are adding a retail store, which will bring a lot of people, and they need parking, and you are short of parking already. So this is quite a concern.
So, so the rates for the retail are not changing. The reductions are with respect to residential spaces. Sorry if I wasn't clear.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any further questions of the speaker? There being none, could I get a motion on this application, please? Ms. Sankar?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I mean, I'm kind of satisfied that transportation has reviewed this and has no objections, and that there is a a letter of support from the neighborhood association as well. And so for those reasons as well, and the explanations provided by the applicant, I'll motion to approve this application.
Okay, thank you. Just ask. Yes, there's, Ms. Sankar, there's a staff report. There's recommended conditions from city planning. If you would like to, Mr. Lamb, they're fairly lengthy. Should we read them all out?
Sorry, so I could state for the July 7th staff recommendations that it would be subject to those conditions.
Okay, thank you.
It's 2 conditions, so it's technical.
Okay, thank you, Ms.
And also,
Sankar.
Mr. Chair, there are transportation conditions as well.
Now, the transport, there's no recommended condition from Transportation Services. They have no objections to the parking variance.
But they are asking for zoning review waiver as
No,
a
they're-
condition.
If you look at their report that's dated, yeah, it's dated the 7th of July. Okay.
What they've said there is that it represents a deviation, but based on justification provided, it is acceptable. And so they have no objections to the minor variance. That's the comments that they made. So I'll leave it subject again to just the staff recommendations of July 7th.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion from Ms. Sankar. Could someone to second that? Mr. Hunt seconds. All those in favor? Opposed? Mr. Khan dissenting. Sir, your application is approved, subject to city planning conditions. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, members of the committee.
Okay, we're now on item number 2, 41 Glengarry Avenue. I have 3 people registered to speak. The agent is Elizabeth Sisam, S-I-S-A-M. Are you there, madam?
Elizabeth, you're unmuted.
Thank you very much.
Yes, can I get your full name and address, please?
Yes, certainly. My name is Elizabeth Sisam. I'm an architect, and my office address is 190 St. George Street, Suite 1101, Toronto, M5R2N4.
Okay, thank you, madam. Note that we have 2 other persons registered to speak. I also note that we have no recommended conditions or staff comments on your application. But because we have 2 other persons registered to speak, madam, if you could give us a brief presentation on what you
Mr.
see as
Chair.
the merits of your proposal.
Mr. Chair,
Certainly.
the other 2 individuals registered to speak are not on the call.
Oh, they're no longer here?
I don't see them appearing on the call.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Chu. Okay, madam, just let me go through your application here. Again, you have 2 variances before us. It's pretty clear what you're asking for in the variances, one for floor space index and one for minimum side yard setback. I think it's pretty clear what you're asking for. I'll just ask, madam, is there anything you'd like to tell the committee that isn't contained in the material we have before us this morning?
No, I just would like to say that the owners, Miss Nicole Charlebois and Mr. Josh Sorkin, have spoken with their adjoining neighbors, and we are unaware of any opposition to this application. I would just like to add that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, madam. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? Mr. Khan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question to the Madam Architect is, I have 2 concerns about this application. Number 1 is the privacy, because the full-size balcony will create privacy to the house next, number 43, as well as the balcony being oversized. There will be a noise. People will be gathering and creating a noise situation. So have you consulted the neighbor house number 43?
There is no balcony that is proposed. There are it's a two-story addition. On the second floor, there are bedrooms. There is no balcony off the bedroom. The existing condition is a balcony which is being demolished, and the proposed condition is after the demolition of an existing 10-foot 4-inch addition that was done previously by another owner, which will be demolished. We intend to add a two-story addition, which is 18 feet in length. So if you go to the proposed, you're looking now, there is no balcony to the rear. There you are.
So there is no balcony there.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
You had a second question, I believe?
I don't believe so. Does the committee have any further questions of the speaker? There being none, could I get a motion on this application, please? Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Based on the explanation by the applicant and the fact that no department comments or concerns have been expressed, I would move approval of this application.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Someone to second that motion? Ms. Sankar seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Madam, your application has been unanimously approved without condition. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now on item number 3, which is 1340 Avenue Road. I have 2 people registered to speak. The agent is a Mustafa Khalil, Khalil. Are you there, sir?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, committee. My name is Mustafa Khalil to MK Architect.
Great.
Our office address is
thank you, sir.
3461 Dixie Road. Sorry. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Just finish your address there.
3461 Dixie Road, Mississauga, Ontario, Unit 504.
Okay, thank you, sir. I just wanted to add before you start, we have one other person registered to speak. I noticed that there is a comment on file from city staff, city planning in particular, 4th of July report, which has a recommended condition. I just wanted to ask, sir, if you've had the opportunity to read that city planning report.
Yeah, I reviewed that. We are agreed with the condition. We have no problem to comply with this condition.
Okay, thank you, sir. If you could give the committee a brief presentation on what you see as the merits of your proposal.
Yeah, thank you. So what we have is existing residential building, and we are just converting unoccupied space on the basement level, which is 50.7 square meter to unoccupied one unit, one bedroom unit. Residential unit. That's the change we are requesting, and since it's existing non-compliance building, so when we add the basement, it adds a little bit to the FSI of the building.
Okay,
and we ask the committee for approval for this application.
I just wanted to ask, sir, are there any exterior changes to the building being proposed, or it's all interior work?
No, sir, all interior alteration.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, we'll go to the next person on the list. Next speaker, I have Sylvia Derasner, D-E-R-A-S-N-E-R. Are you there?
I'm a neighbor, 1336 Avenue Road. I don't know if you can hear me because I'm
okay. Thank you, madam. If you'd like madam, if you'd like to give us your thoughts on this.
Yeah, just wanted to have an opportunity to ask questions, but I'm not sure if it's appropriate. Just like timing of the renovation, like if they're going to start at 7 a.m., 8 a.m., or this is not the right forum.
Okay, thank you, madam. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, we'll go back to the agent. Are you there, sir?
Yeah, I'm there.
Yeah, you heard the previous speaker. If you'd like to make any comment on her comments.
For sure. Once we got the hopefully the minor variance approval, we got the permit. All the work will be during the regular work hours, nothing after work hours.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, could I get a motion on this application, please? Mr. Khan?
Thank you, sir. Sir, I'm taking the staff recommendation as my approval for this application. The proposal be developed substantially in accordance with the site plan and proposed basement level drawings submitted to the Committee of Adjustment and attachment number 1 and 2 to this report. This application be approved.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. Does the someone to second Mr. Khan's motion? Mr. Hunt seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Sir, your application has been unanimously approved, subject to city planning conditions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're now on item number 4, 188 Wilfred Avenue. I have one person registered to speak. That is a C.Y. Lee, L-E-E. Are you there, sir?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Can I get your full name and address, please?
Yes, my name is C.Y. Lee. I'm the agent and the architect for this application. My address 200 Finch Avenue West, suite number 233.
Okay, thank you, sir. Just wanted to ask, I note there's a couple of, actually there's 3 reports on file with your application. There's a recommended condition from Urban Forestry. There is a report from City Planning dated the 6th of July, which recommends a modification to variance number 2 and another condition. And there's also a report from Transportation Services dated the 30th of June, which recommends refusing your application because of the issue the driveway is too wide. So I would suggest that given these reports, if you'd like to give the committee a brief presentation, and I understand that there were some changes that you'd like to make to your application and as requested by City Planning. So if you'd like to make those changes now, if you could read them into the record while we're here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This house was built in 1950, and this is an addition project to the existing 2-story house.
Sir, before you start, Are you proposing to make any changes to your application?
Yes, we, first of all, variance number 2, after we consult with the city planner, we reduced the variance to 1.5 meter instead of 1.2 meter, which we requested.
Okay,
so
sir.
That drawing was revised.
Sir, can you read out what that change is?
Yes, the number 2 says a requirement is minimum side yard setback is 1.8 meter. The proposed south side setback is 1.2 meter. After we had a step report from the planner, they advised to change it to 1.5 meter. So we changed that setback to 1.5 meter, and we revised the drawing and submitted to the city.
Okay, so you're changing variance number 2 for the south side yard setback from 1.2 meters to 1.5 meters. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay, are you proposing any other changes to your application?
Yeah, no.
Okay,
But
thank you.
Can I make a comment on the one? No.
If you can proceed with your presentation then.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This house was built in 1950. This is an addition project to the existing 2-story house. The addition will include 1 single car garage and the expansion of the 2nd floor. There are 5 variants we are requesting for your approval, and 4 out of 5 are the existing conditions we are requesting your approval, which are number 1, 3, 4, 5. So only variance we are not, which was not existing condition, was south side setback. We are asking 1.5 meter now setback variance instead of 1.8 meter. So what we are asking is about the front driveway width. That's the existing condition. Only we're asking is to keep the existing condition. And I'd like to show the elevation, the context in the context. We submitted the later days.
Okay, thank you, sir. I just wanted to ask a question. With respect to the proposed driveway width, you're proposing at 4.29 meters. When I was up looking at the street, it doesn't seem like that width is out of context with the neighborhood. Is that correct?
That's correct. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, could I get a motion on this application, please? On this revised application, please note that variance number 2 has been changed to read that the south side yard setback has been increased from 1.2 meters to 1.5 meters. And there's also a recommended condition if committee sees merit in the application that needs to be read into the record. Could I get a motion on that, Mr. Khan?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm taking the advice from the staff, and I'm reading for approval. The proposal be developed substantially in accordance with the front elevation east drawing submitted to the Committee of Adjustment and attachment number 1 to this report. This application be approved with forestry conditions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Khan. Someone to second that? Mr. Hunt seconds. All those in favor? I'm sorry, all those in favor? Okay, opposed? Mr. Kidd's in favor. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, hang on just Mr. Khan.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. I just have a question. Did we get the revised the revision for variance number 2?
Yes, we did.
I didn't hear that in the.
It was read into the record.
It was okay. I'm in favor of the motion.
Okay. Well, you know what? Let's start over, Mr. Khan. If you can just restate your motion, please.
Sir, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm reading again. I'm taking the staff recommendation that this proposal be developed substantially in accordance with the front elevation, which is east drawings, submitted to the Committee of Adjustment, attachment number 1 to this report.
Okay.
This application be approved with forestry conditions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Khan. Someone to second that? Mr. Hunt seconds. All those in favor? Opposed? Ms. Sankar dissenting. This motion carries. Sir, your application has been approved subject to urban forestry and city planning conditions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now on item number 5, 1 Roland Avenue. I have 2 people registered to speak. The agent is a Tom Sprague. Are you there?
Mr. Chair, Tom is not on the line. However, we have I believe the owner is Lisa Diamond.
Yes, Lisa Diamond's here.
Yes, okay, thank you, Ms. Diamond. I'm sorry. I thought you were a resident, but you were the owner. Okay, thank you. I'll just ask, madam, I'm just going through your file. I note that there's just one recommended condition from staff. It's an urban forestry condition. It's pretty clear what you're asking for. We have one variance before us relating to our front porch platform encroachment. It's pretty clear what you're asking for. I'll just ask, madam, is there anything you'd like to tell the committee that isn't contained in the material we have before us this morning?
Yes, thank you. Very briefly, as you mentioned, my name is Lisa Diamond, 1 Roland Road. I've owned and lived in this home for 8 years. Last year, we completed a significant renovation on the interior and rear of the home, and that went through Committee of Adjustments. We recently decided to improve the front exterior of the home, and you can see the pictures, thank you there, including the front stairs and patio. As you mentioned, there's one issue, which is that one side of the patio is 0.89 meters from the property line compared to what I understand is a 1.2 meter bylaw, which we obviously didn't realize until after construction had commenced. We stopped work at that point to seek approval for the committee, which is why I'm here today. The only outstanding piece of work is to add permanent railings. We've canvassed our neighbors throughout our property improvements, including this in particular, and they've all been very complimentary of the improvements and are in favor of this. And I've received no opposition. And then finally, as you mentioned, there seemed to be a request for an arborist report from Urban Forestry. I wanted to just request an exemption from that if it was possible. The work is now complete. And you can see in the file from March 21st that I think was called tree inventory, there was tree protection put up that was documented at that time.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, if I could get a motion on this application, please. Mr. Kidd?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the proposed variance is minor, and I'd like to put forward a motion to accept the application, but I am going to make it subject to forestry condition.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kidd. Someone to second that? Ms. Sankar seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries. Madam, your application has been approved subject to urban forestry conditions.
Thank you. Can I ask what the intent of the forestry piece is, given that the work is complete?
Well, Madam, you'll have to discuss that with urban forestry. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Let's see. We're now on item number 6, 77 Abitibi Avenue. I have one person registered to speak. That is Agent Ali Malek Zadeh. Are you there?
No, because I'm telling you that one.
Yes,
No,
can I get
because
your
am
full
telling
name
you
and address,
because when
please?
I'm telling you to not do something or do something.
Ali, you're
there is a
unmuted.
reason, because I'm taking in advance.
Hello, sir?
I am always giving a reason. What do you understand?
Hello, sir? Mr. Malik, are you there?
I'm sorry. I have to disclose the fucking idea all the time. I'm sorry.
I think he might be on the phone call, Mr.
Pardon me? Mr. Malik, are you there? Mr. Malik Zeta, are you there?
Yes, I am here. I'm sorry.
Yes. Can I get your full name and address, please?
My name is Ali Malik Zadeh, and I'm living. The address is 236 Les Mills Road, 416-850-0021.
Okay, thank you, sir. Before we start, I wanted to say we've got a number of reports on file with your application. There's a recommended condition from Urban Forestry. There is a report from Transportation Services dated the 30th of June, which has no objections to your driveway location. There's a city planning report dated the 6th of July, which has some recommendations, which recommends refusing variance number 1 for the proposed building height, and variance number 5 for the proposed building height is measured under the old North York zoning bylaw. So in view of that report, I suggest you give us a brief presentation on what you see as the merits of your proposal. You have read those reports, sir?
Yes, Mr.
Okay, if you'd like to give us a brief presentation on what you see as the merits of your proposal in light of those recommendations from city planning.
I had a chance to talk to the planner that about their concern about the height, and I provide my reasons, and also as you seen that they have on their report, they comparing it with what happening in the area or previous approval, but unfortunately what they approved before, it didn't have the same location and scenario we have for this property. This is a corner lot at the corner of Abitibi and the Willowdale. It has exposure to mostly the main street as a Willowdale, and also it doesn't have any kind of impact, the additional height that we have as a flat roof to the neighbor. So it's exposed to the street from the side. We also wants to improve the side elevations as part of the urban design requirement as a corner lot. So we came up with the flat roof to propose, and we try to stay within the approval as well. The approval that the planning department they put together is just in an immediate approval from the Abitibi, but there is other approval happened in the area southern than Abitibi, but I don't want to bring those one to my this proposal, because each property has their own situation. Referring to the report that the planning has, I talked to the homeowner, and I brought to their attention that this is the concern that the planning has, and they decide to decrease the height in terms of each floor in order to having some height and then propose it under 9 meters. So what we are proposing now for item number 1 and then under item number 5 is that we're reducing the height.
Okay,
by
sir,
0.3 meters.
Sir, are you proposing
Yes.
changes to your application?
Yes.
Okay, you should have said that at the beginning. Okay, so what change are you proposing?
We are changing number 1.
Okay. Read it into the record. What are you proposing to change?
So the proposed height of the building is 9.13 meters, and then we are changing it to the 8.83 meters.
Okay, so variance number 1, you're reducing the building height from 9.13 meters to 8.83 meters. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and what's the next change?
Item number 5.
Okay, that's the old North York bylaw.
Because this change is automatically affect number 5 as well. So number 5 is changing from 9.56 meter
Okay.
to 9.26 meter.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. Okay, can you finish your presentation?
It's finished now, because that was the end at the end of the other presentation.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? Mr. Kidd?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just curious, have you had a chance to run these changes by city planning and get any comment from them with regard to your proposal?
No, we didn't talk about the number, but I told them that I have to talk to the owner and then see if they want to make any changes, but that changes came after that they send the report. So no, I didn't have any chance to talk to them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kidd. Does the committee have any further questions of the speaker? There being none, could I get a motion on this revised application? Please note Variance number 1, the building height under 569-2013 has been reduced from 9.13 meters to 8.83 meters. And variance number 5, which is the building height under the old North York bylaw, which was originally at 9.56 meters, has been reduced to 9.26 meters. All the other variances remain the same. So if I could get a motion on this revised application, please. Mr. Khan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. After all these 5 variations, variances, and the number 1 and number 5 have been modified, I find this all minor variances, and therefore I move, although there is no staff recommendation, and there is a forestry requirement, I move that this application be approved with forestry conditions.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Khan, just to summarize then, your motion is to approve the revised application subject to urban forestry conditions. Is that correct?
Thank you, sir. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. Someone to second that motion? That motion does not carry. Can I get another motion? Ms. Sankar?
For you, Mr. Chair, I'm looking at the staff report and I didn't hear really a good justification for why it's not been respected or staff has not been consulted. And so I'm not even sure that the reductions, although it was done in good faith, really do meet what staff has explained to us as it not being in line with the entire streetscape, etc. It does not fit the character of that neighborhood. And so for this reason, I'm going to approve the application, but I'm going to refuse variances number 1 and 5, and I'll make it subject to forestry. That's my motion.
Okay, Ms. Sankar, can I just clarify? So you're proposing refusing variances 1 and 5 and approving the other variances?
Well, I'm following what the staff recommendations are saying. So it's the staff report of July 6th.
Yes, okay. That was
saying that variances 1 and 5 be refused.
Okay, thank you.
And subject to forestry.
Thank you. Someone to second Ms. Sankar's motion? Okay, I have Mr. Kidd seconds. All those in favor? Opposed? Mr. Khan dissenting. Sir, your application has been approved with the exceptions of variances number 1 and 5, which have been refused. Thank you very much, sir. And it's subject to urban forestry conditions. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're now on item number 8. Item number 7, which was 222 Saint Germain Avenue, has been deferred. Item number 8, 153 Valleys Drive. I have one person registered to speak. That is Addison Millen Pierce. Are you there?
Good morning, Sir Chair and fellow committee members.
Yes, hello, sir. Can I get your full name and address, please?
Yes, my full name is Addison Milne Price, and I'm a planner at Design Plan Services Incorporated of 900 The East Mall, Suite 300, Toronto.
Okay, thank you. Sir, I'm going through your file. I note that the only staff report is from Toronto Region Conservation Authority dated the 28th of June of this year. They have no objections to your report. You have 2 variances before us, one for front yard setback, the other for building length. Pretty clear what you're asking for. I'll just ask, sir, is there anything that you'd like to tell the committee that isn't contained in the material we have before us this morning?
I would just like to note that 15 surrounding neighbors have been consulted regarding this application, including the immediately adjacent neighbor at 148 Ree Valleys Drive, and have provided signatures in support of the proposal as indicated on the neighborhood support letter. The support letter was submitted past the material submission deadline. However, it is on record with the COA.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, could I get a motion on this application, please? Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Based on the June 28th TRCA email, which identified no objections and no permit required, and also the full support of the Don Mills Residences, Inc., and the fact that the applicant has indicated strong support from the neighbors, I would move approval of this application.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Someone to second that motion? Ms. Sankar seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Sir, your application's been unanimously approved without condition. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Are now on item number 9, 112 Randolph Road. I have 3 people registered to speak. The agent is a Parissa Amiri Kankari. Last name is spelled Kankari. Are you there?
Yes.
Yes, can I get your full name and address,
Hello?
please?
Yes, this is Parissa Amiri Kankari. I'm the architect and the applicant on this application.
Okay.
My address is my office
Okay, thank you.
50 Woodville Avenue.
Okay, thank you, madam. Just wanted to add, I looked through your file. I note that there are no staff comments or recommended conditions on file. We have 2 other persons registered to speak, madam, so if you'd like to give us a brief presentation on what you see as the merits of your proposal.
Yes. First, starting with this, that my client, who is the owner of this property, reached out to excuse me, I just had COVID. He reached out to his neighbors and adjacent neighbors and explained the application to them. They're in support, and we are only seeking one variance, which is FSI, and instead of 60%, we are seeking 68%. And the reason is because we have used the space above the garage, between the garage and the second floor. That 8% belongs to that, and we are not seeking any other variances such as setback, height, lot coverage, lot depth, nothing. And everything has been respected, and the reason for this variance is only that space that we are creating. It's a dead space that we are converting into office. I'm happy to answer if there is any question.
Okay, thank you, madam. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? Okay, thank you. Just to be clear, madam, just a question is that the only variance you're seeking is for floor space index. The rest of the building complies with the zoning bylaw.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to the next person I have registered to speak. I have a Nasser Jajmei, Jajmei.
Mr. Chair, the person's not on the call.
Not there. Thank you, Mr. Chu. Next person on the list is a Zeni Zhao, Z-H-A-O. Are you there?
Yes,
Yes, madam. Can I get your full name and address, please?
my name is Jenny Zhao. My address is right next door, 114 Randolph Road.
Okay.
And yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, madam. If you'd like to give us your thoughts on this application?
Well, we consulted our lawyer and our own builder. At the present time, we don't have any concerns. Well, we trust our professional team's advice, but I do have a couple suggestions that in the future, when you reach out to us, for example, like, could you write it in writing instead of just send a text message? And because when you send all these things, I have to go to my
madam,
lawyer.
Madam,
Yeah.
Yes. Do you have any comments on the variances that this is?
Oh, I see.
That this is material. It's
Sorry.
between you and the applicant. It's not any of the
Oh,
committee's
okay.
business. So, if
Sure,
you have any,
okay.
do you have any comments on the requested variance?
The variance, no. At the moment, no.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, go back to the agent. I guess there's nothing to comment on, so I'll ask the committee, does I'm sorry, can I get a motion on this application, please? Mr. Kidd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I feel the requested variance is fairly modest, and I'd like to put forward a motion to accept the application without condition.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kidd. Someone to second that? Ms. Sankar seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Madam, your application's been unanimously approved without condition. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're now on item number 10, 60 Skyview Crescent. I have one person registered to speak. That is a Sean Toussi, Toussi. Are you there, sir?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Just making sure you can hear me.
Okay, thank you, sir. I just wanted to, I've gone through your file. I note that there's a number of reports here. We have a report from Transportation Services dated the 30th of June, which had no objections to your driveway location. There's an urban forestry report dated the 6th of July that recommends refusing variance number 3 as it requires removing 3 privately owned trees. We have a report from City Planning dated the 6th of July, which recommends, makes recommendations specifically with refusing one of the variances, number 4. And we also have a letter from Councillor Carroll dated the 14th of July, which also recommends refusing your application. In view of these comments, sir, I suggest you give the committee a brief presentation on what you see as the merits of your proposal, especially with respect to the city planning and urban forestry comments. So if you'd like to proceed, sir.
Yes, Mr. Chair. If I can ask the staff to share the drawings and the site plan, I'll start with that. So this is while they're sharing going to share the site plan, this is a new house in a very specific lot, Mr. Chair. And as you can see in the drawing, the lot is in a sort of a special shape with not having one corner, which is causing a lot of variance, which are relatively technical. And we also have about 4-meter height difference from the front of the house to the back of the house. And then at the same time, this is a transitional. So Havenbrook Boulevard, on the other side, we have condos that are 30, 40 stories. And then we have this property on the corner, which is transitioning into the residential neighborhood. So I would say this is a transitional lot from condos all the way to single family homes. And in addition to the back and front of the house having significant height difference, also the south side of the drawing where the Havenbrook is, to the side where it meets the neighbor, also have 1.5 meter side difference. So the side step was very different, as well as the height difference from the front and back and side to side. And then we would have the transition lot where we're going at the same time being a corner lot. And then we had 2 public trees. If you look at it where it says Havenbrook Boulevard, we have 2 public trees. And then where you see on the other side where the proposed driveway is, we have 4 private trees. And the owner had the right to have the garage. And speaking with the transportation, they insisted that because Havenbrook is coming off a main arterial street, it is very unsafe to have a driveway there. So they insisted that if they want to support the application, driveway has to be the other side on the less traffic street, which is the Skyview. And then they didn't want it close to the corner for obvious safety reason. And that driveway position is literally the only place that we had to satisfy the safety of the public, at the same time really accept that the homeowners have the right to have a garage in their house. And unfortunately, because of that, those 3 has to go. But for us, between removing 2 public trees as well as having an unsafe setup according to transportation, we thought removing those private trees is literally the only option if we accept and we assume that the homeowners have the right to the garage. The design of the house, we were forced to raise the house slightly to be able to have the ground floor access to the backyard. Again, the front and back is quite a setback. If we look at the side plan, that can probably, or we actually did a late submission. It was a presentation that, if possible, staff could open that and we can look at the site, and that will explain while the staff is loading it. The planning concern is the main wall height, which I can explain. It's really a technical variance as a result of the very special shape of the lot. And being a transition lot, I believe it is a very, very reasonable moving from the condos on one side to the other one. If the staff were able to locate the late submission we had, which I believe the committee haven't seen it, it's a PDF file that has elevation with some measurement as well as a couple of photos. If it is possible to load that.
We're just looking it up now.
Okay, so while the staff is looking for it, what we're seeing there, one is that we have condos, and then we have this house, and then we have the neighboring properties. And the only concern of the planning is main wall height, which is really as a result of a special condition of this lot. And this is special condition in this significant height difference is only for this lot. You do not see that on the other neighboring properties because this lot is absorbing the majority of height difference between Havenbrook and Skyview. So all the other lots have a reasonable slope, but this one suddenly have a huge slope. Yeah,
Sir, can you summarize, please?
Sure. If you look at the one on center is the subject properties. And if we wanted to have and we are proposing to have the garage here where these trees would needs to be removed, but then the alternative is the tree in the middle of the picture, which is a public tree. And if we wanted to put the garage the other side, would that have to be removed? And then you will see on the right picture,
thank you, sir.
We have the garages.
Thank you.
Okay.
Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? I'm just going to ask, sir, with respect to those 3 trees that you have to remove on you're proposing to remove on the Skyview Crescent frontage, what condition are those trees in? Because forestry says they're in good condition.
Mr. Chair, what the position, we haven't really had I don't have the answer to that, to be honest. We know we have engaged an arborist, but the point is that if we accept these folks, the homeowners, have the right for a garage, then the question is, if we accept that, if the members accept that, somebody buys a lot, they're permitted to have a garage and is safely positioned. The question is, should we remove the city-owned trees that are taller and are city lots and on a more major street versus the private ones? And we thought, and the transportation thought, it is choosing between probably not a good option and a worse option. And then we thought that removing these three private trees where we could replant, we could work with urban forestry and replant. We're even fine if you see fit to have a condition to work with urban forestry. If there is any alternative, as long as the homeowners want the garage, whether transportation would accept, we put it the other side and the urban forestry agrees on the removal of public trees, or we could put the driver closer to the corner, but then it's the issue of issue of a safety because transportation doesn't like driveways right in the corner.
Okay, sir. Both Havenbrook and Skyview, they're both local streets, right? They're both low volume local streets, correct?
Well, no. Well, Mr. Chair, if you look at
sir,
sir, so it's less private.
Sir, yes or no?
No, sir, they're not equally. Their privacy is not equal. So Skyview is more private. The Havenbrook is more major.
But they're both local streets, right? And you already have an access on Havenbrook Boulevard that's been there for obviously quite some time without any incident. Could you not take the access from Havenbrook and avoid having to take out the 3 mature trees?
The transportation wants at least 9 meters from the corner, Mr. Chair. The current driveway is less than 9 meters, and they didn't accept it. That was our original proposal. We wanted to keep the curb cut. We wanted to keep the existing driveway and keep the existing design. But then the transportation point was that we don't want the access very close. So you either have to push it back. That means our building depth would become 26 meters. We had to make the building like super long and super sized, which we wouldn't be able to do it. And just for your points, we have and that's what they wanted. Like, we are fine with. I really don't know what could be the solution. Like, to us, it came out between safety and trees and protection of public trees and private trees. The ones removing the private trees is the best option. But we are open to any suggestion you, Mr. Chair, members of committee would have to really address this issue. But the homeowner wants the garage, and we think it is fair for them to have it.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? Mr. Kidd?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This lot is surrounded on 3 sides by the streets. I wonder if you had a chance to speak to the one neighbor, the one adjacent neighbor who is affected by this, the owner at number 58. Was there any discussion had with them?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I believe the homeowner has talked to them, and my understanding is that they have no opposition.
Thank you.
And just to add one more thing, so Havenbrook comes from Don Mills Road, which you all know it's a very major street. So Havenbrook has a lot more traffic than a Skyview Crescent, which is really a crescent. So only local people would really go to Skyview. It's not like a road through to access to other places. There's a lot less busy Skyview versus Havenbrook, which is a major access to all the condos and everything.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any further questions of the speaker? Could I get a motion on this application, please? Ms. Sankar?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I've fully heard what the applicant has said, but reading the staff report, I feel like I understand what staff is, referring to, and that's not the greatest of my issues. It's around forestry versus transportation. And to be honest, I think this could be worked on even further. And I don't feel that it was, the best of all options actually came to us. So for that reason, and given the amount of objections for this, I'll put through an approval for this, but I will make it subject to the staff report and the recommendations of July 6th, where they have indicated variance number 4 being refused and the proposal be developed substantially in accordance with the site plan drawing. And I am going to make it subject to forestry. I feel that a conversation needs to be had with forestry in order for some kind of medium to take place between them and transportation. So for those reasons, I will motion to approve this, but it's going to be subject to the staff report and to forestry.
Okay, thank you.
That's my
So
motion.
just, Ms. Sankar, just to clarify, you're moving the city planning report of the 6th of July with their recommendation to refuse variance number 4, and you're moving the forestry report of the 6th of July, which recommends refusing variance number 3. Are you moving that as well?
Yes,
Okay.
that's my motion.
Okay, thank you. So we have that motion from Ms. Sankar. If someone to second that motion?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Mr. Lamb?
Sorry, can I verify once again that the motion is to approve it, but refuse variance number 3 and 4?
Yes, it would be, okay, that would be,
I'm following the staff reports and it be developed substantially in accordance with the site plans drawings that were submitted to the committee.
Well, okay, just a sec. Well, I'll have to ask Mr. Lamb this, because if we're only, if Ms. Sankar's motion is to refuse variances number 3 and number 4 as per the staff recommendation, there's also the city planning motion, and also second part of that motion, second part of their recommendation that states if committee approves the application, which in my mind means approving all the other conditions, that means staff recommends that the proposal be developed substantially in accordance with the site plan drawing. So what you're, Mr. Lamb, should we not make that, we should not make reference to that second paragraph then?
Yeah, well, two points. I just want to confirm the motion from Ms. Sankar that she is indeed refusing variances 3 and 4.
Variance 4.
And also, to your point, I wasn't quite sure if the planning condition is now still viable given the removal of those 2.
Okay.
Yeah, so. Yeah,
So then I'll motion to just refuse variance 3 and 4, and that's my motion.
Okay, so, I'm sorry, Ms. Sankar, we'll get this straight eventually. Variance number 3 and variance number 4, you're recommending to be refused. And then but we will not include that planning condition that says the proposal be developed substantially in accordance with the site plan drawing submitted to the committee as attached as attachment 1 to this report. That's not part of your motion.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, one more thing. If you look at the forestry memo, if you're refusing variance 3, then the second part does not apply.
Which means no conditions.
Because it says, if despite this and you approve it, then this condition would apply. But if you're going to go ahead and refuse it, then it's not subject.
Yeah, so they'd have to go back to urban forestry.
Mr. Chair, can we request a deferral? Can we request a deferral, Mr. Chair, just to work these out?
If you want to request a deferral, sir, you'll have to formally request that. So are you now requesting a deferral?
Request deferral. Yes, Mr. Chair. The reason is that the height it's significant because of the lot shape.
Sir, are you asking for a deferral?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I would like to request a deferral.
Mr. Lamb?
Yes.
If committee is going to entertain that, then formally, Member Sankar would have to withdraw her motion if she agrees to, because we're in the middle of committee right now. So this deferral request can only.
That's the formal process.
Yeah. So if
Okay,
committee.
so
Sir, let Mr. Lamb finish speaking, please.
I just want to say, if committee is going to entertain a deferral, then formally, Member Sankar would have to withdraw her motion. Otherwise, we are still in committee.
Okay, we're still in committee, so Ms. Sankar, if you're prepared to consider a deferral, you'd have to withdraw your motion.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I feel that this is something that he should have thought about from the very beginning. So no, I'm going to move. I'm going to continue with my motion. And if it's not accepted by the members, they are more than willing to move forward with a deferral if needed. So no, I'm going to move that variances number 3 and 4 be refused, and I'll approve the rest of the application as is.
Okay, so let me just clarify, Ms. Sankar, your motion, you still want to proceed with your motion to refuse variances number 3 and 4?
Yes, I'd like to follow due process, please.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion from Ms. Sankar to refuse variances number 3 and 4. Can I get someone to second that motion? No one seconds that motion. Can I get another motion? Mr. Khan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm moving this application be approved, and I'm taking the staff recommendation that this proposal be developed substantially in accordance with the site plan drawings submitted to the Committee of Adjustment and Attachment 1 to this report. and forestry conditions apply.
Okay, so, Mr. Khan, your motion is to approve the application, subject to that the proposal be, the planning condition, that the proposal be developed substantially in accordance with the site plan drawing submitted to the committee and attached as attachment number 1 to this report, and subject to urban forestry conditions. Is that correct?
Right, sir, right on.
Okay, thank you. Someone to second Mr. Khan's motion? That motion does not carry. Can I get another motion? Mr. Kidd?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we should give the client an opportunity to work on his application. It sounds like that's what he would like to do. I'd like to put forward a motion to defer the application to allow the applicant to work with planning staff, work on his application.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kidd. Someone to second Mr. Kidd's motion? Mr. Hunt seconds. All those in favor? And all those in favor, okay, thank you. I have unanimous support for that proposal. Sir, your application's been deferred to the next available meeting so that you can discuss your application with urban forestry and city planning. Good luck, sir.
Thank you.
Item number, actually, I think it's time for a break. We will take a short break. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll come back in 5 minutes. 5 minutes or 10? 10 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, committee's back in session. We are now on item number 11, 294 Wilson Avenue. I have one person registered to speak. That is Yasso Somalingham, or Somalingam, Somalingam. Are you there, sir?
Chairman, Yasso Somalingam. I'm the authorized agent on this application.
So, sir, can I get your full name and address, please? Sir, can I get your full name and address, please?
Yasso Somalingam, 850 Tapscott Road, Unit 51, Toronto, Ontario.
Okay, thank you. Sir, I've gone through your file. I note that there is a report on file from Transportation Services dated the 7th of July. They have no objections to your parking variance, and that's the only variance we have before us this morning. And I just wanted to ask, sir, is there anything you'd like to tell the committee that isn't contained in the material that we have before us this morning?
No, there's nothing else to add, Mr. Chairman. This building has been existed for a long time. It's been used as a mixed use, but since we are doing an alteration permit, this zoning comment came in, and then we had to address that through the variance.
Okay, thank you, sir. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, could I get a motion on this application, please? Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Given that the transportation is on July 7th indicated no objections on the reduction of parking spaces, I would move approval of this.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hunt. Someone to second that. Ms. Sankar seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Sir, your application's been unanimously approved without condition. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and the committee.
Thank you. We're now on item number 12, 93 Post Road. I have one person registered to speak. That's Sean Tusi. Are you there, sir?
Yes, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Sean Tusi, Principal Office at Mimar Architects Inc., representing the owner today.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'm just going through your through your file. I note that there is some staff reports on file. There is a recommended condition from Urban Forestry. There's also a Toronto Region Conservation Authority report dated the 5th of July, which has no objections to your application. There's a ravine and natural features protection report, which apparently recommends a refusal due to impact on bylaw protected trees. There's a Transportation Services report dated the 7th of July that has no objections to your application subject to conditions. I just wanted to ask her if you've had the opportunity to review those reports.
Yes, Mr. Chair, and with your permission, I would like to have some explanation of the project when you see fit.
Okay, thank you. If you'd like to tell the committee, anything that isn't contained, pardon me, in the material that we have before us this morning.
Sure, Mr. Chair. So this if you can ask the staff to load the site plan, I'll make it very quick this time, Mr. Chair. So this was a very special shaped lot, and we had some special requests from the owners. It is impacted by TRCA, as you have seen, and we had to work with them, as this was also impacted by flood zone, and it was a lower flood zone area. It is also very special shape. If you look at it, it's sort of a rectangle, and then it jogs in, offsets, and then it sort of points towards the back of the house. And we had to work very closely with the planning. You can imagine that having right now, we have planning in support, transportation in support, TRCA in support, and for Ravine and Urban Forestry, we're fine should the committee decide to approve the application to make it conditional for their satisfaction. Their concern is a tree at the front of the house, which we believe through the arborist inspection, we could definitely keep that, and that's why we're very confident. Should you decide to approve it with their approval, it would be fine. Our client also needed a barrier-free design due to the movement limitations. So because of the flood zone and to satisfy TRCA, we had to raise the house and also push it forward to accommodate the top of bank and the risk and the safety of the house. And that current proposal you see has their approval and their support. But this contributed to the front yard landscaping, which I believe is about 5%, because we had to push the house forward, and also impacted the height because we had to push the house up. We also had to accommodate the barrier-free requirements. And for that, the owner wanted us to have a canopy at the front of the house to allow ease of pickup and drop off during winters and special weathers. So that canopy is creating some of the variances, which is just encroachment. To clarify, we do not have any front yard variance, side yard, but just that encroachment of that canopy is the one that is the variance, which is again because of the special condition of the owners. We also had to accommodate ramps that would also impacts the design and the size of the house, the way we had to build the internal elements to be able to allow somebody with wheelchair to be able to move around. So these requirements contribute to the front yard canopy again, and the required setback as you see. The other variances, I believe, are very typical, and for that, I will just, if there is any question, I will be happy to answer.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, I note that we have no other persons registered to speak, so if I could get a motion on this application, please. Mr. Khan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There are 9 variances, and out of these 9, I find 5 of them are not minor. Number 1, the transportation services also has objection about variance number 5, which is not allowable more than maximum 6.56. Coming to variance number 6, I think this is not minor. Variance number 7, not minor. Minus variance number 8, not minor. And variance number 9, also not minor. Considering all these not minor, I think I am of the opinion that this and proposal be refused.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion from Mr. Khan to refuse the application. Can I have someone to second that motion? Mr. Hunt seconds. All those in favor? Opposed? We have a tie. I won't support Mr. Khan's motion, so can we get another motion? Ms. Sankar?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I believe that there are things that could be worked at with this application. So I'm going to motion to approve it, but I'm going to make it subject to, the July 7th transportation report, as well as subject to conditions of forestry. So that forestry does have a chance to.
Yeah, there's also conditions from ravine and natural features protection.
They had said they had no objections unless I have the wrong report, but I can, I'll make it subject to that as well. Yes.
Mr. Lamb?
Can you put the memo up, please, for RNF?
If you go down to the, I think the,
they're asking to deny the variance.
the last paragraph of their memo. It's on page 3. Yeah, 2 and 3.
Okay. So I'll approve, subject again to forestry, transportation, as well as ravine and natural features.
Okay, thank you. Someone to second Ms. Sankar's motion? Mr. Kidd seconds. All those in favor? Opposed? Mr. Hunt, Mr. Khan dissenting. I'll support Ms. Sankar's motion, so that motion carries. Sir, your application's been approved, subject to urban forestry, ravine and natural features protection conditions, as well as transportation services conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members.
Item number 13, 281 Glen Grove Avenue West. I have one person registered to speak. That's Lauren Rose. Are you there, sir?
Yes, I am. 283 Glen Grove Avenue, 388 Spadina Road is my address.
Okay, thank you, sir. I note there's no other persons registered to speak on this application. Your application also has no staff comments or recommended conditions. You have 2 variances before us, one for a side platform of the area of the side platform and proposed floor space index. I just wanted to ask, sir, is there anything you'd like to tell the committee that isn't contained in the material we have before us this morning?
No, I'm the only neighbor who's affected, and I have no problem with it.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? Ms. Sankar?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. If Mr. Rose could probably explain a little bit about the floor space index. I know that it doesn't seem to be a concern for everyone, but maybe just for the record, if you could explain why that is as large as it is.
Sure. I have no problem with that. So just so you know, I originally did this house, which is next door to where I live, and the property was sold. New owners bought it. She recently found out she was pregnant again, so they need more space. The space is within the roof line, so there's no real impact. There is a side balcony for fire safety that faces my house. I have no objection. It's a little bit higher than some of the houses on the street, but it is in the 3rd floor, and there's no impact on the urban environment. I'll also let you know that the house across the street, which I also did, the renovation got approved for 90% density. So I don't think there's real impact here, but that is the reason why the number is what it is.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any further questions of the speaker? There being none, could I get a motion on this application, please? Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Based on the answers to the committee's question and the fact that there are no department comments or concerns with respect to the application, I would move its acceptance.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hunt. Someone to second that? Ms. Sankar seconds. All those in favor? Opposed? Mr. Khan dissenting. Sir, your application's been approved without condition. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now on item number 14, 349 Ellerslie Avenue, I have one person registered to speak. That's the agent, Mr. Kamyar. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes. Can I get your full name and address, please, sir?
My name is Kamyar Kodemi. My address is 14 Hazelwood Avenue, Toronto.
Okay, thank you, sir. I notice that you've got gone through your file. I note that there's 2 reports on file with your application, one from City Planning and one from Transportation Services. The one from City Planning has no objections to your application subject to condition, and Transportation Services has no objections to your application. So if you'd like to, is there anything you'd like to tell the committee, sir, that isn't contained in the material we have before us this morning?
If you don't mind, I can quickly go through the history of this site if I have time.
Sir, we're having trouble hearing you.
So
Can you speak up, please?
Oh, sure. Can you hear me now? Better?
Okay, you have nothing.
Is it better now?
Okay,
Sorry. Is it better now?
okay, thank you. Does the committee have any questions
you.
of the speaker?
Mr. Chair, I think he was going to give a brief presentation.
Sir, do you want to make a presentation to the committee?
Yes, I'm just going to quickly tell what happened with this site because I can do it now. What happened was we have been in conversation, transportation, and we get the letter of support. If you go to the next slide, please. Sorry, the presentation that I sent is not on your files. It's on the project folder. Yes, that one. So we got a letter of support. If you go to the next one, what happened was they had an issue with having the entry from the main street and Lee Street, but because the other option, which is shown as option 2, was closer to the intersection, they agreed on, and we agreed to move it to option 1 and also repave the area which is at the intersection. Now it's shown as dotted lines. That's for transportation, and the other letter is about the elevation that for sure we would be happy to build the building exactly as we are showing and apply for the permit with the same elevation that we are showing to the committee. If you go to the next one, please. So that's the similar building that has access from the Ellerslie Avenue, which is exactly on the other side of the street. You go to the next one. So this is showing the existing curves that we are using the first one from the right. The second one would be repaved, and the third arrow is showing the neighbor entrance. If you go to the next one, please. So this is it full screen? This is showing the buildings that they have the same access from the main street. As you see, the red ones is our property, and the ones that have a yellow text are the other ones. So that was one of the variances that we have been in conversation with city staff. So we changed the curb from the curb cut on the main street to keep as zoning is required with 6 meters. And next, please. This is also showing our building versus the other building that they have 32% or more, or very close to 32% coverage. That was one of the variances. If you zoom out a little bit, please, to show all of them. Yes, please, thanks. And the next one, if you don't mind. So this is the elevation from the side. That was the base of the city staff letter. So the only area that we are going more than the minimum required height is for those windows. And as you see, the percentage of these areas is much less than the whole length of the building. So we, as mentioned, we will be happy to keep the building permit submission and the construction as same as this. So we're keeping the same small areas that are going more than required sidewall. Can you go next, please? Same on this one that was on the east elevation. It's 39% of this wall, which is minor, and this one is facing street, so it's not facing neighbor. And if you go to the next one, can you zoom out a little bit? It's the full screen, doesn't show up. Yes. So the minimum side setback, which is 3 meters from the corner lot, and these are the samples, like the precedents of in the context that they have a similar situation. Can you go to the next one as well? And the maximum permitted building height, which is 8 meters for flat roof, and we are on the 10.2 meters, but it's happening only on the small portions. If you go to the,
Sir, can you
see, it's on
summarize,
the-
please?
Sure. So my point was, we find the precedent of the same variance in the neighborhood. We are happy to work. We have worked with transportation staff, and they are in line with what we are proposing. And also for the city staff, planning staff, we are keeping the site facade as we are showing on the committee of adjustment package.
Okay,
That's
thank
my
you, sir.
summary.
Thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, could I get a motion on this application, please? Mr. Khan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I'm taking the advice and recommendations of the staff, and I'm reading their condition that this proposal be developed substantially in accordance with the side elevation east and side elevation west drawings submitted to the Committee of Adjustment, attachment 1 and 2 to this report. And this approval is also taking the transportation services note for recommendations.
I don't believe Transportation Services had any recommendations, Mr. Khan. It was just-
Sir, I was reading that Transportation Services has a note of recommendations.
That was for.
Mr. Khan, just to clarify, Transportation Services didn't have any objections to the application. There are no conditions. There are no recommended conditions from Transportation Services.
That is true, sir, but there are no conditions, but there are recommendations. That is what I'm suggesting.
Mr. Khan, you have to clear, what is it that you want Transportation Services to do? They don't have any recommended conditions. They're in favor of
Okay, sir,
conditions 1 and 2.
Let us take them out.
Sorry, can I add something?
Look at yeah, there are no conditions from Transportation Services.
Okay, sir.
Okay,
There no condition is no condition.
Okay. So we have a motion from Mr. Khan to move approval of the application subject to city planning conditions. Someone to second that? Ms. Sankar seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Sir, your application's been approved subject to city planning conditions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're on item number 15, 5 Painter Drive. I have one person registered to speak. That is Branko Mladenov, Mladenov. Are you there,
Yes.
sir?
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Branko Mladenov. I'm an architect. My address is 3141 Road, Toronto.
Okay, thank you, sir. Just to let you know, you have 2 variances before us, one for front yard setback and the other for an eaves encroachment. Pretty clear what you're asking for. I've gone through your file. We have one report on file from City Planning dated the 6th of July, which has no objections to your application, subject to a condition. I just wanted to ask, sir, have you had the opportunity to review that City Planning report?
Yes, we are okay with that.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything you'd like to tell the committee that isn't contained in the material we have before us this morning?
Not everything is there.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, could I get a motion on this application, please? Mr. Kidd?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I feel the requested variances are minor in nature, and I'd like to put forward a motion to accept the application subject to the planning staff condition from their July 6th, 2022 report. The condition being that the proposal will be developed substantially in accordance with the site plan drawing submitted to the Committee of Adjustment, and attached to the planning staff report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kidd. Someone to second that motion? Mr. Hunt seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Sir, your application's been approved, subject to city planning conditions. Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you. Item number 16, 12 Meriden Place. I have one person registered to speak, Osrin Stambuk, Stambuk. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Can I get your full name and address, please?
Yes, my name is Osrin Stambuk. My address is 15 Moreland Road.
Okay, thank you, sir. I've just gone through your file. I note that there's a couple of reports on file. There's a recommended condition from Urban Forestry. There's also a report from City Planning dated the 5th of July, which recommends modifying variances number 2 and 7. I just wanted to ask, sir, if you've had the opportunity to review those reports.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I have reviewed those reports, and actually, we even submitted the revised drawings for the planning recommendations. We attended to those immediately, and we fully agree with those recommendations. And
Okay.
we also submitted waivers.
So, sir, can you, before you go any further, can you just tell us what modifications you're proposing to make to your application? If we could read them into the record this afternoon, please.
Yes, I can. So these are modifications to the public hearing notice, and this is for variance number 2.
Okay.
Which is in front of us on the screen. And do you want me to read the variance or
Yes,
the
please,
change?
if you can read out the modification you're making.
Okay, so in the RD zone with a minimum required lot frontage of 18 meters or less, the permitted maximum building length for a detached house is 17 meters. We are now proposing a building length of 20.5 meters.
Okay, thank you. And any other changes?
Yes, and this is for, if you could just scroll down a little bit so we can see the rear yard setback variance right there, number 7. So this is for variance number 7. The required rear yard setback is 8.30 meters, and we are changing this to so that it reads the proposed rear yard setback is 6.58 meters.
Okay, so you're increasing that rear yard setback from 5.58 meters to 6.58.
Yes, that is correct.
And are there any more changes?
No.
Okay, thank you. Again, is there anything you'd like to tell the committee that isn't contained in the material we have before us this afternoon?
I think it's all contained in the material, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, could I get a motion on this revised application, please? Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Having heard the changes suggested by the applicant in consultation with Planning Department, and I would suggest that this be approved, and if you wish, I'll read those modifications into the record. Modification of variance 2 with respect to building length from 21.5 meters to 20.5 meters. And modification of variance 7 rear yard setback from 5.58 meters to, or increase to 6.58 meters. And also the condition that the rear yard setback be developed substantially in accordance with site plan attached to the planning report, and also the July 7th urban forestry requirements.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hunt. Someone to second that motion? Mr. Khan seconds. All those in favor? The motion carries unanimously. Sir, your revised application has been unanimously approved, subject to urban forestry and city planning conditions.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you. We're now on item number 17, which is 386 Balliol Street, which deals with the house on 386 Balliol Street. I have 3 people registered to speak. The agent is Ty Rook, R-Y-U-C-K. Are you there, sir?
Yes, sir. It's Tay Rook, planner
Tay.
for the owners of the property at 386 Balliol Avenue.
Great, thank you, sir.
Balliol Street, sorry.
We have 2 other persons registered to speak. I note that there are, before you start though, sir, I note there are 2 reports on file with your application. There's a Transportation Services report dated the 7th of July with respect to, indicates it has no objections to your driveway width. And there's also a letter from Councillor Robinson dated the 7th of July, which opposes your application. So if you'd like to give the committee a presentation on what you see as the merits of your proposal.
Sure, sir. This is an application to construct a new dwelling with a laneway suite at the rear, and I guess we'll deal with that as part of the next agenda item. But as it relates to the house, there are variances related to the porch setbacks, the canopy setbacks, the GFA, the main wall exterior heights, and also building length as well. And what you find is, in terms of as it relates to the front and west side yard setbacks for the front porch and the front canopy, and if you see the presentation slides that I've provided, I've colored in some items on the site plan. What you have is the front porch that is highlighted in green, and also a canopy that extends westerly towards the west side lot line. It's a small architectural feature that is added to the plan to provide more of an interest towards the street, and not to have a square box per se to present to the house towards the streetscape itself. As it relates to the front yard, as it relates to the east side yard setback, there is a set of stairs along the east side yard. And what that is that it's to provide entrance or access into the house at the side. And it's on the right and towards the top, there's a set of stairs there. And if you look at the side elevation, the east elevation, you'll note that this house or the property itself, sir, if you could go to the 4th slide on that presentation slide that you just had up. If you go to the 4th slide, you'll see that the steps are approximately less than 2 feet in terms of heights, 1 feet 9 inches that is accessing the side door at the rear. And the location of that door has been provided in a way where it does not, it's not opposite to immediate windows and adjacent properties. And you'll also note that the property itself rises from the street towards the rear yard. And what that has done is that basically this house has been cut into the slope to minimize the massing and the height as much as possible. You'll note that there is a exterior sidewall, exterior wall height variances related to this proposal at 8.04, and that's related to pretty much at the front. And as you go further back, and you'll see the dimensions that I provided in red, at the middle of the house it's 7.5, and as you go towards the rear of the house it's 7.2 meters. So somewhat consistent in terms of what the bylaw seeks in terms of heights for the area and for the bylaw. And what you end up with from a streetscape perspective is a dwelling that is more than compatible with existing dwellings within the street, which have either pitch roofs or flat roofs, and is more than consistent in terms of massing and height that would be provided towards the streetscape. The other variance related to this proposal over this house is the building length. And the building length is somewhat of a technical variance that's being presented here, and the building length is at 20.65 meters. And you'll note that on the side elevation, there's that green boxed area. So the deck at the rear is excavated underneath, and as a result of that, the bylaw calculates building length towards the edge or to the end of the deck. And that is why you have that large number of 20.65. At the end of the day, the house itself is in principle, the principal house, the 2-story element of the house is approximately 17 meters. So it's very consistent with the bylaw, and it's consistent with other dwellings within the neighborhood as well. As it relates to the GFA at 0.65, you'll note that there's an area context map, which is the first slide of my slides. You'll note that there's properties that have been highlighted in green represent those properties that are in excess of 0.65 in terms of 0.6 in terms of GFA. And you find that on Bayeux, you find that on other streets on Merton, as well as Davisville to the rear, to the north of the subject site. You'll also note on that area context map, at the rear of the property being outlined in red, there's a laneway that runs the length of Bayeux Street. And what that is to provide access to the rear via garage or a driveway. And the driveway variance relates to the width of the driveway at the rear of the property. I think there has been some confusion that we're providing a driveway at the front. We're not touching the front. The front will remain as landscaped, and because there is no existing driveways that go into the front of the property. As a result, I believe this is a very reasonable proposal. Planning staff, as it relates to the house, has no issues with this proposal. Transportation has provided indicating no objections, and I'd be glad to answer any questions, and I'm sure I'm going to have to provide a rebuttal after I hear the other speaker speak.
Okay, thank you, sir. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, I'll go to the next person on the list. I have a Al Kivi, K-I-V-I. Are you there, sir?
Al, you're unmuted.
Yes, hello, sir. Al Kivi?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, sir. Can I get your full name and address, please?
Yes, my name's Al Kivi. I live at 427 Belsize Drive. It's not proximate to the property. And I'm representing the South Eglinton Davisville Residents Association here today. I should point out I'm not familiar with having back-to-back applications. The thrust of my concern is really with the laneway suite. And I'd ask the chair, are we going to have a second review of the laneway suite subsequent to this discussion?
Sir, we're just dealing with the house portion of the application. We're not,
Okay,
well,
yes,
the next item deals with the laneway suite. So if you'd like to confine your comments to the house that fronts on Balliol Street.
Yes, for sure. I didn't understand the protocol in this particular case. I have one comment I'd like to make very specifically. Mr. Rayuk, I didn't get the name properly, indicated that the length and the depth of this building is essentially the same thing, and that there was no purpose in the bylaw that essentially controls the depth. I'm paraphrasing him, perhaps. The city has thought through its bylaws very carefully that the issue of depth is very important, critically important, and that the fact that this foundation is below ground is relevant, certainly, but it's certainly something that's covered in the bylaw. I can imagine that the purpose of the bylaw serves two purposes. One is to ensure that the soil condition in the backyard of that property is going to be kept intact. Secondly, that landscaping is permitted throughout that. And thirdly, that if that foundation is permitted to exceed the depth as it's indicated, that would allow the building to be built above that foundation wall sometime in the future. So there are clearly purposes and intent of the bylaw here, and I don't think the applicant has explained adequately, at least to my mind, that this proposed depth increase meets the purpose and intent of the bylaw. That's all I have to say specific to the main dwelling. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, sir. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, I'll go to the next person on the list. I have a Sheila Harrison. Are you there?
Mr. Chair, Sheila is not on the call.
Okay, thank you. I'll go back to Mr. Rook. Mr. Rook, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you heard the comments from Mr. Kivi. If you'd like to reply to them, please.
Sure, sir. There was mention of soil condition, and that's not within the realm of Committee of Adjustment. It'll be dealt with building permit process. if this application is approved. As a result, in terms of the building depth or building depth variance, as I think what's more important as opposed to the number in this particular case, although it's 20.65 meters, what's physically above ground. And what's physically above ground is approximately 17-meter length house that is being presented towards a streetscape and would have no impact. And the additional 3.65 meters would have no impact on adjacent properties or to the neighborhood itself because it's all contained underground. And the only thing that is above grade is a deck which would be permitted and would look exactly the same if the deck was not excavated underneath. With regards to the concerns of future builds, if somebody in the future decides to build on top of the foundation below the deck, they would have to come back to Committee of Adjustment because they would require a length variance, in addition to the fact that they would probably require an additional GFA variance for this property as well. So it's not subject to somebody just plopping on a building on top of that foundation. Once again, I believe this is a reasonable proposal, and I believe if there's any questions of me, I'll be glad to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? Could I get a motion on this application, please? Mr. Khan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This application has 11 variances, and variance number 5, which is related to the transportation services, they have no objection, and there are no staff recommendations. And I find that all these variances are minor in nature and comply zoning bylaws. Therefore, I move this application be approved.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Khan. We have a motion from Mr. Khan to approve the application. Can I get someone to second that? Ms. Sankar seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries. Sir, your application has been approved without condition. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
We're now on item number 18, which is 386 Balliol Street. We're dealing with the Laneway residents. I have 5 people registered to speak. Mr. Rook, you're up again. Are you there, sir?
Yes, sir.
I
am here, sir.
Yes, thank you, sir. I'm gone through your file. I know there's a report from City Planning on registered with your application. It's dated the 5th of July, their report. It recommends eliminating variance number 4, as well as has some other recommendations. I wanted to ask, sir, have you had the opportunity to review that report?
Yes, sir. And I could advise you that there's going to be 2 changes to the list of variances. And if you'd like me to go through that, I could go through that right now.
Yes, if you, just a moment here. Let me just get down to, okay, can you tell me which variances you're proposing to modify?
Sure, sir. Variance number 1 related to the distance from the residential building on the Laneway Suite. It is 6.21 that's currently proposed, but it'll increase to 6.71 meters.
Okay. All right.
And then variance 4, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, it's just,
Hello?
Let me get this clear here. Variance number 1, the proposed distance from the residential building to the Laneway Suite will be 6.21 meters. That has been increased to 6.71 meters. Is that correct?
Correct, sir.
Is there any other changes?
Yes, sir. And as per the planning recommendation, variance number 4 has been eliminated. We will be providing bicycle parking spaces.
Okay, great. Thank you. In view of the fact that we have other people registered to speak, sir, if you'd like to give us a presentation on what you see as the merits of your revised application.
Sure, sir. Variances numbers 1 as modified, 2 and 3 actually relates to the fact that that green area being the excavated deck underneath is considered the rear wall of the dwelling because as per the previous application, you recall that this was counted as building length. So you'll see that there's a dimension between the properties from that rear wall, which is that first circled dimension at 6.21, which will be increased to 6.71. But in actuality, the rear wall of the house is 9.26, which will be increased to 9.76 as a result of the modification. So it's in excess of the bylaw requirements in terms of separation distances, which has caused these variances for variance number 1, 2, and 3. And variance number 1, variance number 1 is the separation distance. And however, as I indicated, the physical distance from the actual laneway suite to the rear wall of the house that is above grade is in excess of it's approximately 9.76 meters. In terms of variance number 2, the proposed laneway will require an angular plane, and as what this proposal has will be an angular plane that is in excess of 45 degrees. So in terms of that variance is somewhat technical. Once again, it is because the excavated deck is considered the rear wall of this proposal. Furthermore, third variance relates to the height of the laneway suite at 5.75. Once again, related to the distance that was technically measured as 6.21, but once again, the house is physically 9.71, will be physically 9.71 meters from the laneway suite. So there's plenty of separation distance between the laneway suite and the dwelling itself. It's consistent with the policies in terms of having the appropriate separation distance, the angular planes as well. And furthermore, the proposed laneway suite is a great addition to the housing policies to provide for intensification and to provide for affordable housing, which is a recent policy that has been enacted or being proposed by city planning staff. So once again, with the modifications and the elimination of variance number 4, the variances before you today are very technical in nature, and it's all related to the fact that you have an excavated deck at the rear.
So, sir, can I ask again with this issue of the 45-degree angular plane, are you saying that?
Yes.
Because city staff was in their report, I'm sure you've read it, as one of their recommended conditions was that the laneway suite maintain a 45-degree angular plane projected towards the rear lot line beginning from a height of 4 meters at a distance of 7.5 meters from the above-grade portion of the rear main wall of the residential building, and the distance from the residential building to the laneway suite be developed substantially in accordance with the site plan drawing attached to this report. So can you clarify with respect, are you including a 45-degree angular plane, or does this, can you clarify that issue of the angular plane?
Sure. So the way the bylaw or the bylaw reads is that the ancillary building containing a laneway suite may penetrate into the 45-degree angular plane if it's at a distance of 47.5 meters. And that is because that variance is only being triggered because the distance between the laneway suite and towards the dwelling is being measured to the rear of the deck because of the fact that it's excavated. In actuality, the 45-degree angular plane is to ensure that the top of the roof of the laneway suite has a 45-degree angular plane. And the house doesn't encroach into that angular plane. So basically, to summarize, we have enough separation distance between the house and the laneway suite to provide for that 45-degree angular plane, and we have no issues with the conditions that the planning staff has provided.
Okay, so are you basically saying that condition's redundant? Like
it is redundant, but the planning department has put it in there as an abundance of caution, and you'll also note that the approval, if approved, be tied to substantially in accordance with the plan.
Okay, because what I'm not clear on is that if you're not penetrating the 45-degree angular plane, why do you need variance number 2?
Because of the fact that because we have a distance of 6.21, which is measured to the deck. Okay. So if we were in excess of 7.5, we wouldn't need this variance. But what I submit to the committee through you, Mr. Chair, is the fact that the reason it's being measured to the deck is because the deck is excavated and is calculated as part of building length. So the bylaw defines the rear wall of the property to be at the deck, as opposed to the structure, the actual physical house, which is above grade, which is approximately 9.7 meters.
So can I say that, did you have any problems with the city planning recommendation about the 45-degree angular plane?
No, sir, absolutely not.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any further questions of the speaker? Being none, I'll go to the next person on the list. I have Al Keevy. Are you there, sir?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir. We're dealing with the 386 Balliol Street, the actual laneway residence, if you'd like to make your comments on that.
Yes, yeah, the actual laneway suite.
Yes.
As I understand it. We in our neighborhood, we differentiate between the people who call it Balliol and the people who call it Balliol. So Balliol, I understand, is Balliol. Would it be possible to put my presentation deck up? I don't know if it's easy, or ask you to follow along as I get through it. Yes, and chart 2, I really focus on the thrust of my presentation today is really on the 4 requested variances. I understand, in my view, all variances are technical, and calling it a technical variance doesn't make it go away. It simply has to be analyzed with respect to its context as well. So adding technical in front of every variance doesn't mean that it shouldn't be scrutinized by the committee, certainly. I'd like to point out that we've had quite a large number of laneway suites built in the city of Toronto, approved. 74% of them were as of right. So these are essentially in the old city of Toronto, where lots are about 25 feet wide, which is the condition here. We do have 1 laneway suite built in our neighborhood, 229. It's a wonderfully looking laneway suite. It's built as of right. We have another one that's been approved. The point here that I want to make is this is a very important, and Mr. Ryuk talked about this laneway suite is seated on a very large laneway with 85 houses on it. So whatever is approved today will actually propagate itself up and down the laneway. That's natural, that's normal. So what we're now saying is you can build an overly large laneway suite as long as you have a super large deck built on an underground basement. I don't think that's really what we want to encourage today. Next slide, please. The next slide focuses on a picture, or it provides a little bit of a background of a laneway suite. This is a very fresh bylaw. It's there. We have all the material. We have a very good understanding of what the purpose and intent of the bylaw is. We don't have to depend on professional opinions on it. The purpose of intent is very clearly stated in the bylaw document. The next slide, slide 4, shows within the context of the bylaw, the purpose and intent is really what they wanted to do is through specifying the angular plane, the height, and specifying the separation of the building, is that we would ensure that the height and massive scale of the proposed dwelling is reasonably sized compared to the main dwelling. Next slide, please. What I've done on the next slide is try to provide a 3D rendering using some common tools to show what the building will look like. And if you look at the bylaw really very specifically said we got to control the angular plane, we have to control height, and we have to control separation. These were the 3 triggers. And what we're being asked to do today, what the committee is being asked to do today, is to essentially remove the angular plane. It's not a technical variance, it's a real variance. It exists today. The separation has gone smaller, but it still exists today, and the height still exists today. So this is an unfortunate decision to move ahead to ignore essentially the three controls that have been put together around this particular property. In the last slide, I just really want to talk very quickly about the burden of proof in this particular case. It's a very new bylaw, and the burden of proof is not on us, the residents. It's not on laypersons to determine that this represents good planning. the onus is always on the applicant to provide substantial evidence to the committee that really proves out that the purpose of intent of the bylaw has been met. And in this particular case, separation, height, and angular plane. I've not today heard any evidence from the planner that really refers to the purpose of intent of the bylaw and how this application that exceeds the separation and height and angular plane is in keeping with the purpose of intent of the bylaw. This is not a problem of lot size, as I pointed out earlier. This is a problem of suite size. The building size is just too big. And if it's to be built, it should have an angular plane
Sir,
in it.
can you
And this is
summarize,
really-
please?
So again, this is very important development, I would say, I would submit today, and care should be taken in your decision today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, I'll go to the next person on the list. I have a Sheila Harrison. Are you there?
Mr. Chair, Sheila is not on the line.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chu. I have Mr. Kulniaks, Kulnieks. Are you there? Hello, sir? Mr. Kulniaks, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, can I get your full name and address, please?
It's Andre Kulnieks, Kulnieks at 390 Beloyal Street.
Okay, if you'd like to give us your thoughts on this application?
I'd like to just defer my thoughts until everybody's spoken, if that's okay, because I'm the neighbor.
Well, this is your slot if you'd like to speak.
Okay. Because I wasn't prepared to speak, so I'm just gonna think. I was just wondering about the hydrological assessment, if there's any such thing in terms of the drainage, but also I was wondering if the dwelling there was going to be pulled back to the original laneway rather than being 1.5 meters or, you know, to wherever the other garages are in the area.
Sir, with respect to drainage, the committee doesn't deal with drainage. If the application is approved as part of the approval process, the applicant has to submit a lot grading plan to the building department that shows that the stormwater can be managed on their own site without impacting abutting properties. With respect to your other questions, the agent will address those when he comes back up at the end of the speaker's list. Okay, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think I'm good. I'm here primarily just to see the process and to be part of that process.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'll go to any questions of the speaker. There being none, I'll go to the next person on the list. I have a Greg Russell. Are you there?
Hello, Mr. Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, hello, sir. Can I get your full name and address, please?
Yes, sir. My name is Greg Russell. I live at 392 Balliol Street with my wife and son.
Okay, if you'd like to give us your thoughts on this application.
Yes, sir. I'm quite pleased to hear from Mr. Rook about the distance quoted with the main building to the ancillary building. But I do note that there seems to be a difference in understanding of the distance between the ancillary building and the main building of this 7.5 meter requirement and the angular plane. So I would like Mr. Rook to come back on after I'm finished to just briefly discuss the angular plane measurement and how that relates to the distance measurement, because it seems that the city report indicates the 9.26 meter from the rear wall above grade, whereas the architect's rendering was from the rear wall of the below grade basement. So that is a question I have. With respect to the laneway suite, One of the things that I am questioning is the side yard setback, which I understand is 1.5 meter from the neighboring lots, the abutting lots. So if the Mr. Rook can comment on that and why that wouldn't be in the zoning examiner's report, that is a question that is not answered in our minds at this point. The other thing I want to also identify is that the distance of the outer wall, when we did meet with the applicants, our neighbors, it wasn't clear to us about the distance of that wall being only just over 17 meters. We were under the understanding it was close to 20.65, and that was one of our principal reasons of objecting to the application as it stood. In closing, we respect the committee's decision, but we do want some of these matters cleared up with respect to the side lot variance, and also the question around the measurement between what the city did and what the architect did, and maybe explain how that's done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? Okay, we'll go back to Mr. Rook. Mr. Rook, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Yeah, you heard the comments from the previous speakers, if you'd like to reply to them.
Sure, sir. It seems like there's a bit of confusion with regards to the separation distances. So I'll start off by saying this and try to make it as simple as possible. I keep on talking about the basement below the at-grade deck. So if there wasn't a basement below the deck, we would not have a variance 1, 2, or 3. That's why I say it's technical in nature. So it could look exactly the same on the site plan without a basement below the deck, and that laneway suite would be permitted as a right as proposed on the plan today. The reason why the deck, there is a variance 1, 2, and 3 is because the bylaw interprets rear of the house to be the basement, which is below the deck. That's why you have a measurement of 6.21 on the site plan, which has currently been increased to 6.71. In addition to that, but when you look at the measurement from the front of the wall of the laneway suite to the actual physical rear wall of the dwelling, which is the two-story element, you have a measurement of 9.26, or which has been increased now to 9.76 meters. So as a result of that, what the bylaw is saying with regards to the 45-degree angular planes is that if you have a distance less than the 7 meters as required by the 7.5 meters between the house and the laneway under the bylaw, you have these requirements that you need to meet in terms of the laneway suite height, the angular planes, in addition to the actual physical distance between the dwellings, between the two buildings itself. So once again, if there wasn't a basement below the deck, we would not have variances 1, 2, or 3 because we meet the separation distance requirements of the laneway suite and the proposed dwelling. There was also a question with regards to the setback. I don't know if it was related to the laneway suite or if they were speaking to the house itself. But as it relates to the laneway suite, there is no side yard setback requirements or rear yard setback requirements. And it was not, we did do a zoning review and it was not identified as a variance. There was a question from Mr. Russell, Mr. Kovacs, with regards to the setback towards the rear lot line in terms of the alignment of the garages. We currently have, on the site plan, you see 1.5. But because we're pushing the laneway suite back further towards the rear laneway, we're ending up at 1 meters in terms of setback, which will be consistent with the other garages in the area. So once again, if we didn't have a basement below the deck, this would be an as-of-right laneway suite, and we would not have any variances related to it. It's only because we have the deck basement below the deck, we have technical variances related to the separation distance, the height, and also the angular plane. And once again, planning staff has recognized the technicality of its nature, but out of abundance of caution, they put in those conditions and that the proposed development, if approved, is substantially in accordance with the site plan. If there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, could I get a motion on this application? Please note that the application has been revised in that, just go here, variance number 1 has been changed. The proposed distance from the residential building to the laneway suite will be 6.21 meters. That figure has been increased to 6.71 meters. In variance number 4, that regards bicycle parking, that 0 bicycle parking spaces are proposed. That variance has been deleted. He's meeting the requirement. So if I could get a motion on this revised application, please. Mr. Kidd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Having listened to both sides of the argument, I think I feel I do agree with the planning staff that this is an appropriate development for this property, and accepting the explanation from the architect. I'm going to put forward a motion to accept the revised application with the variance number 1 revised to read: the proposed distance from the residential building to the laneway suite will be 6.71 meters. Variance number 4 to be deleted. And I'm going to make that subject to the condition, the conditions that are set out in the planning staff report dated July the 5th, 2022. Do I need to read those out?
Mr. Lamb, does Mr. Kidd need to read out conditions 1 and 2 of that city planning report? No. Okay, that's not necessary, Mr. Kidd.
That's my proposal.
Okay, someone to second that. Ms. Sankar seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Sir, your application's been your revised application's been unanimously approved, subject to city planning conditions.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are adjourned till 2 o'clock.